welcome to my channel. I'm Karine Robin from the montessorifamily.com. So in today's video I want to talk about the absorbent mind. It's a very important concept in the Montessori education that you're going to hear about a lot if you start to do some research about Montessori. And yes, so let's dive deeper into what is the absorbent mind. So Maya Montessori believes that a child from birth to 3 had an absorbent mind. So from birth to 3 years old, the child absorbs from his environment. This is the time where the young child is growing, not only physically but also spiritually, psychologically, his mind. So the child works to become a human being. So the first 3 years of life are of great importance. During this time, the child forms his personality. So basically, children unconsciously soak up information from the environment, learning at a rapid rate. We say that the child absorbs like a sponge, okay? And, they're going to absorb everything like a sponge, okay? The good things and also the things that you didn't want them to be exposed to, they will absorb everything. So we have to be mindful of what we expose our children to and to kind of set up a beautiful environment for them as much as we can and to expose them to great opportunities and experience as much as we can. So the absorbent aspect of the mind is one aspect. What Maya Montessori has also noticed is that children have a drive to explore and a drive to act. The specific term is harmony. It seems that the little child cannot stop himself to try to explore and to repeat. Okay, take the example of a child who learns to walk. He falls all the times, he may hurt himself, but still he keeps trying to walk. And thankfully we do that, otherwise, if we were giving up at the first as the first hurdle, that we wouldn't go so far, right? And she observes that all the children all around the world develop at the same rate, in the same way, and have similar interests and kind of play at the same age. So it seems that we have an inner teacher, a blueprint, or what she described, as the sensitive periods for learning that push the child to explore some specific aspect of the environment and to develop just at the right time. So the information is not just absorb, it's also transform. And you see the transformation when the child becomes more conscious. Generally after the age of 3, you can see that they kind of organize their thoughts, they organize all the stimuli they have absorbed during the first 3 years, and they try to make something out of that. And there is another aspect of the mind that is quite important to take into account as well. We call that the human tendencies. So as human beings, Maya Montessori believes that we all have the potential to develop some specific characteristics like language, mathematical thinking, music and art. But she says that we need to be exposed at the right time. So the right time is the sensitive period. So we may have all the possibility to develop a musical ear, but we have to be exposed at the right time or we would lose that opportunities forever. That's a bit what Maya Montessori believed. Obviously we do know that our brain is much more resilient, plastic, that's what we told, so don't be too worried if you haven't exposed your children to everything they needed to be exposed to in the early years. We are much more resilient and our brain is much more flexible and plastic. That's what we taught at the time of Maya Montessori. So basically during that time when your child has an absorbent mind, children don't consciously choose what to do and what toys to play with. If you provide them with what interests them, they will focus and learn deeply and quickly. And they will, basically, in the early years, between birth to 3, they are little explorers who come upon opportunities. So it's therefore very important to prepare your environments to give them as many opportunities as possible. Because at the time when they absorb, and it's so easy for them to absorb at that time, that, the best example is to observe a child who learns a second language. They do that effortlessly. They can learn a second language so easily when it's so hard for us adults. And I know what I'm talking about because obviously English is not my first language. So it's kind of unconscious in the first 3 years. So they need to be exposed, they need to have those opportunities, and they will take them on and absorb all those stimuli. From 3 years old and onwards, the child starts to order his mind and express his wills. And when you see, you know, his language has developed and he starts to ask for some specific activities, he has intentions, he chooses activities, and that's also the time when they develop memory. And generally, you know, you can try to remember your first memory. It's generally after the age of 3, because it's when we start to develop those first memory, or at least to be able to recall them. Because maybe we have memories of our first 3 years, but they're much more on an unconscious sensory level. From 3 years old, it's the time when you start to have more of a plan of what kind of activities to present and a kind of curriculum. But you should always focus on what your children are interested in. So that's it for this concept of absorbent mind. I hope that was useful. Let me know in the comments, and let me know what else you want me to talk about in terms of Montessori concepts that you want to explore and learn more about. And check on the blog for even more information about each of those concepts I'm exploring in these videos. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.